My name is Perry Hines, and I just want to welcome you here today to this very, very special occasion. Today, we're honoring two extremely extraordinary, double E's, Rick and Julie, extremely extraordinary individuals whose unwavering dedication and commitment and passionate leadership have literally transformed countless lives in our community. It's a great pleasure what we're going to do today that we announce the renaming of our two largest facilities in honor of Rick and Julie Alvis. You can clap. And so you see the posters here. One is is that the shelter? This is the shelter for men after Rick, and this is the Center for Women and Children after Julie Alvis. From now on, our women's and children's facility will be known as Julie Alvis Center for Women and Children, and our men's shelter will be named for Rick Alvis Shelter for Men. So, again, I guess. So, for over 33 years, probably going on 34, 35, Rick, sometimes we lose count, you and Julie have really been the driving forces behind Wheeler Mission. Your relentless commitment to serving those in need not only has provided immediate relief to hundreds and sometimes thousands each night in our shelters, it has also inspired hope and lasting change and commitment. So Rick and Julie's legacy of kindness and leadership has touched many, many lives over the years. Because we are naming the buildings after Rick and Julie, we just want to make sure that you understand their legacy. Their legacy is one of profound impact and enduring love. And so it's very fitting that we rename these two centers after the two individuals who have been the driving forces behind Wheeler for the last 33 years. Because frankly, folks, they embody love, kindness, leadership, and commitment. So we couldn't think of better people to name our two most important buildings, our two largest facilities, after Rick and Julie Alvis. Rick and Julie, we just really want to thank you for your dedication. Now you can clap. But also, I'm extremely excited because not only is today about renaming buildings, it's also a day where we celebrate the remarkable generosity of our donors and their support for our vision and our mission here at Wheeler Mission. Through the support of just a few dozen donors, we're thrilled, over the top, over the moon, if you will, to announce that contributions and pledges of nearly $6 million to the newly established Rick and Julie Alvis Legacy Fund. Wow. So we created this fund to provide ongoing support for individuals reflecting the character of an enduring legacy of Rick and Julie. So what it will do is this fund will strengthen our abilities to ensure future generations of ministry staff here at Wheeler Mission have the resources and support necessary to offer those programs and services that would lead to life transformation. And that's what it's all about, folks, leading to life transformation. This fund will make sure that we have those funds available to make sure that we train staff and they can continue to provide the kind of leadership that Rick and Julie have provided throughout the years. So that's a short and sweet version of it. Today, we just really want to thank everyone who has made this day possible. I just want you to understand, together, we are not just about renaming buildings today. We're about fortifying a legacy of compassion and building a brighter future for all of our community. And so with those few brief remarks from me, I'm going to bring up Rick and Julie so that they can have a few words. I think this is also on too.
Maybe just Julie, that's okay. Thanks for coming today. This is certainly such an honor and one that was not anticipated at all. I appreciate Perry's kind words and for the board of director for this beautiful way that you're recognizing the service that we've had here and the joy of service that we've had here these last decades, I guess you could say. It's really humbling to have your name on a building of an organization that you love so much. And I'm quite honored and humbled and a little overwhelmed when I looked up on the side of the building today. It was the first time I had seen my name up there. So thank you for that. You know, the first rescue mission in America was established in New York City in 1872. And it was volunteers and staff at that mission that brought the idea of a women's shelter for those people that they called friendless women across America. Now, it took 20 years for that idea to get to Indianapolis, but that was the core. And our history goes back to those days in the 1870s in New York City. So Rick and I are following a huge legacy of people who have dedicated themselves to the work of rescue. Now, it's been a long tradition, and they went before us, and really we're standing here today because of their efforts, and we're so thankful for that. And our mission work began at the Evansville Rescue Mission in 1977. We went there for what we thought was just going to be the summer. We were going to lead some youth camps, maybe 10 or 12 weeks. Well, 13 years later, we left that mission, and we just got the taste of what it could be to be involved in a ministry where lives were transformed through the power of Christ. We moved here in Indy in 1990, and we thought maybe we'd be here a few years. Well, 33 years later, here we are. And we learned a few things during that time. One of the things we learned is that rescue mission work can be very difficult. But rescue mission work is the most rewarding thing on the planet as well, because you see the deep work of Christ in transforming lives. And people who come through our doors and are suffering from mental health challenges, addiction, deep pain in their lives, catastrophic circumstances in their life, generational poverty, can come here and know and understand that they aren't invisible, that they haven't been forgotten, and that Jesus will walk with you through your pain. And that's the way that lives are transformed, is through the power of Christ. So we are thankful today. We're thankful for the staff. We're thankful for the volunteers. They set the standard for sacrificial service in hard places. They made us want to come to work every day and labor alongside of them. We're thankful for the board of directors who had the passion and the vision to help build the capacity for this ministry to minister and keep true to the gospel for many years to come. So we're very thankful for the work of the board in staying true to that mission. We're thankful for our kids who fill these two tables. Our son-in-law is not here today. He's actually at work, which happens to be at a rescue mission in Colorado Springs. And very soon, our daughter Bethany will go back to be with him again. We brought 5 of our most favorite people under the age of 10 are also seated at these tables, with one more who will be here quite soon. So number 6. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Board of Directors. This is a very humbling time for us, and we just pray that the Lord would be glorified through all the work that goes on at this building.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. This is the first time I've actually been back in this building since we left. March of 22nd of last year. So it's been good just to walk. And even, as Julie said, have all of our kids here. And they're looking at me saying, "Grandpa, what happened to your beard?" And, you know, because I had a full beard up until yesterday. And so my wife told me I needed to clean up a little bit, so I cleaned up. But this is certainly an honor to be here and to have, as Julie said, these buildings named after us. You know, it was a surprise because this wasn't what we worked for in our lives. You know, we've been here now for 34 years ago, and never was this on our mind that, you know, hey, come in here, maybe we'll get a building named after us or anything. No, that was never on our mind or about receiving any kind of recognition. Because we, for one, as Julie mentioned, we didn't think we'd last that long, honestly. When we came, I said, at tops, we'll be here 3 years. because they were having some struggles, and I wasn't sure I could really even pull them out of the struggle that they were having, but we decided to launch out and do this. And so when I think about it, it wasn't me doing it, and it never has been me, but it's God. God is the one who's done all of this here in Indianapolis at Wheeler. Not me at all. I was just the instrument. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And I never will forget my first day on the job, and some of you have heard me tell this before, but I was, somebody came into the mission. This is the first day, and I was at the mission at 245 North Delaware, because, we didn't have all these buildings back then. I was in there, and this guy comes up to me from another agency, and he looks at me, and he says, "I don't like you, I don't like this mission, and I hope you fail. And we don't want you around." That was my first day. Welcome to Indianapolis, God, I guess, really did a work in my heart and life as we were able to move on from that comment. But we had moved here from Evansville, where, as Julie said, we spent 13 years, and the last 10 years as the CEO of Wheeler Mission. Of Evansville Rescue Mission. Actually, there's a little joke. Tracy Gorman is here. He's the current CEO of Evansville Rescue Mission. And he and I have this thing going. We refer to Evansville Rescue Mission as Wheeler South. Because they rob our ideas and stuff all the time, which is not really. It's sharing, it's kingdom work. It's not our domain here. And so I'm so glad that Tracy drove all the way up here today just from Evansville to attend this, and we so appreciate him and what's going on at the mission there in Evansville, that we left a good foundation in Evansville for them to launch on and build on. And that's always been my goal here at Wheeler, that no matter what took place, I wanted to build a strong foundation for the next guy, which happens to be Perry, to be able to build on that foundation. And, when I actually first started up here, I commuted for several weeks. When I say commute, I actually flew back and forth, because I found that back in those days that Evansville had a direct flight to Indy. I don't think they do anymore. And I knew which one to grab, and I knew which one was jet service, because I didn't want to be the turbo planes. And so I flew back and forth, because the Lord really hadn't released us yet from Evansville. They still needed us for some stuff, and so I was spending half my time here and half my time there. And folks, that was before cell phones and video conferencing. Imagine what I could have done if we would have had video conferencing, Julie. I could have lasted longer up here. No, she couldn't. And that was the thing. She finally said, "Hey, I am moving to Indianapolis to be with you," because she had 3 kids under 8. I think Bethany was 8 at the time, and and the 2 boys. And so she decided to move here, and that was good for us. And we moved into a tiny house that Wheeler owned, and believe me, it was tiny. And it was just a little 2-bedroom home. And the boys, Nathan and Kyle, they got the 1-bedroom. Bethany got the other bedroom. Julie had a twin bed in the small living room, because there was no room for anything bigger than that. And I slept in the basement with our German Shepherd dog. And, you talk about being squashed. And one of Julie's favorite memories of that house, I think, is the time that she woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning and saw Kyle, who was only, 3 at the time. He was walking through the living room with a hot dog from the refrigerator and a Coke in the other hand. And he had a midnight or a 2 a.m. snack, I guess, at that time. And so I could just visualize that, and I'm sure she wishes she had a video of that. But we have lots of fond memories of that house, and some not so fond. But we have lots of fond memories of our time here at Wheeler, and lots of opportunities and people I got to meet throughout my career. That was just, it was just I never imagined, that never even thinking that all this investment of time, we'd be having our name put on a building. And the people I met was just incredible. I had the chance of being with Billy Graham for several days, and I remember working for other stuff for Billy Graham when I was a younger guy, back when I was a teenager, actually, and I always, never thought that I'll ever meet this guy. And when I became part of the Billy Graham Crusade back in '97, I believe, it's like a 2-year commitment, and I was still CEO here. The board had to let me do that. Never did I think, in all the hard work that we did for the Billy Graham Crusade, the crusade was actually in '99, did I think, I'm doing this because I want to meet Billy Graham sometime. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I didn't really think, because he had such a lot of people around him. Charles Wares knows that. He had guards around him that you couldn't get to him. But I did. And I was able to meet with him. He said, Billy wants to meet with you. This was before the crusade. Got to meet with him and got to pray with him every night before he went on the platform. And that was just an amazing experience. But never once did I think, I just want to meet Billy. I'll do all this work just to meet Billy. I mean, it was worth all the work without meeting Billy and seeing the number of people who came to Christ during that crusade. And so all these years of labor, not once did we think, we're going to get a name on a building. When I say us, it's not just Julie and me, but it's our entire family that was invested in this ministry. There were, times where this family sacrificed for this ministry. I recall one time when we all went to, I think one of our first trips to Florida, to Naples, Florida, and of course, we just bought a van, and we were driving the van down to Florida. Bethany was driving, I think, and because Nathan wasn't old enough to drive yet, and I got the operator's manual out and started reading it to him. I said, if you're going to drive this van, you got to know how to. So I think I bored him within miles of reading the operating, book of a vehicle. But we got down there, and I got a call that a dear board member had passed away, and they wanted me to speak at his funeral. And so I had to catch a flight, leave the family in Florida, and come back here. And there's many times, several times like that. But it wasn't just our family that sacrificed for this ministry and as it's become what it is today. But I could have never done it without Steve Kerr, who was our Chief Development Officer for 27 years. He was glued to my side. And, when we go to meetings, he was the kind of guy who could finish my sentences for me. We were that close. It was fun dealing with Steve. And of course, Perry came in to replace Steve, not knowing that Perry was eventually going to be replacing me. And so that's been kind of an interesting turn of events. And then Cal Nelson, who was our chief program officer chief program officer for all of our programs. And I always called him the chief architect of our programs because he had a knack for programming that not a lot of people had. And then Larry Wright that's here today. I was really thrilled to see Larry, who was our chief operating officer for several years. And together, the four of us were the executive team. And then we were together almost 30 years. And not many ministries across the country have that kind of leadership that stays together that long. Matter of fact, I'd go to conferences and I'd get the question asked, how do you keep these people together? You've been together all these years. And I said, well, it's the Lord that's, brought people together. It's not me. And so it's really that team that laid the foundation for us to grow in. I couldn't have done it by myself. There's no possible way. And we'd come to this today. Now, what has crossed my mind is that maybe just one day that the name Wheeler would come down and the name Alvis would go up. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, that one didn't go over well, did it, Jim? After all, the way I look at it, what do we say? William Wheeler is only here for 16 years. I've been there for 33 years, I said that one time at a board meeting, and I got all these looks from the board, and they said, that is never going to happen. And, because the name Wheeler is precious in this community. It is known all over the country. Literally, we just came from a conference in Lexington, Kentucky that was our national conference. And we had like 1,200 people at this thing. And boy, people were, when you said you were from Wheeler, it's kind of like E.F. Hutton, you got a second look, and people would listen. And because Wheeler has that kind of a reputation throughout the country. So our investments, our efforts here have just been, have invested in the work of the transformation part. Nothing does Julie and I's hearts good, better, or anything else, but just seeing men and women come out of their life's dominating sins into the presence of Jesus and have their life totally transformed. And to us, that's what it's about. My life's verse is Romans 14:8. It says, "For if we live for the Lord. Or if we die for the Lord. Therefore, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's." We thank all of those who had involvement in this today, and may God continue to bless this ministry under Perry's leadership as he did mine. So thank you very much for this time together with you. And now I have the privilege of introducing Jim Fountain, who was the chairman of the board the last few years that I was, with Wheeler as the CEO. But I've got to tell this story on Jim. I really do. But Jim,
You got 5 minutes, and you blew that about 10 minutes ago.
Julie gave me for 5. And anyway, Jim was just becoming the board chair. And we were sitting out in a restaurant, and he was needing some instruction and on how to chair a board meeting. And he says, what's that those things called that you run a meeting with, or something like that? And I said, Robert's Rules of Order. Yeah, that. He said, I don't get into all that. I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement.
There you go.
Right?
That wasn't totally wrong. That's good.
And so when I exited, I gave him my copy of the Robert Rules of Order.
And I'm going to give it back. 3 men are on a golf course. Moses, Jesus, and an elderly, wise old man. Moses gets up and hits a shot. It's a terrible shot. Finds the pond between the tee and the green. He walks up to the pond, and of course he parts that water, gets down in there with his sand wedge and pops it right up onto the green, and then putts it in. Jesus gets up next, tees the ball off, just like Moses. Finds that pond. Walks up, and the ball isn't at the bottom of the pond, it's sitting right on top. He walks out there on that water, just like Jesus does, chips that thing right up, and it pops right in the hole. The wise old elderly man stands up. He hits even a worse shot. It only goes about 40 yards, but as that ball starts to slow down, a big stiff wind picks up, and it carries that ball all the way. But unfortunately, it's going towards the pond. Goes right into the pond. Next thing you know, a carp has that ball from the bottom of the pond, jumps up in the air, about 10 feet in the air, and spins around. The ball comes out of the carp's mouth, and a bird comes by, grabs that ball, takes it and drops it right on the green. So you know, here comes a squirrel, nudges that ball along, drops it right in the cup. Jesus looks over and goes, "Nice shot, Dad." You know, we've talked a lot about transformation. We've talked a lot about the effect that Wheeler has had on men, women, and children in the state of Indiana. There's another part of this. There's an amazing transformation from you all. You all that are involved, from staff to family, but under the leadership the last 30-plus years of Rick Alvis and his wonderful partner, Julie. Cannot think of a better thing for us to do than to commemorate them and honor them with naming these buildings after them. My job is to welcome all you that are here, and I'm not going to go around the room, but I am going to ask you parents to introduce your children, which are the grandchildren, the offspring of Rick and Julie. So start at this table. Who do you have with you?
Right here I have Luna, and right there is my 6-year-old daughter, Isabel.
And you are?
I'm Kyle.
And you
My
are?
wife is Kristen right here.
Yeah, we don't want you to stand. You just stay right there. You're trying to do the Jim Fountain look-alike, but unfortunately, yours will end soon. Mine's going to stick around for a while.
That is my wife, Joy. This is Jack and Julius, Amelia, and Richard Alvis.
And Bethany, introduce yourself. Thank you, Bethany. It's amazing. She has a gift for speaking. Public speaking is amazing. I could introduce you. If you're on the board or have been on the board, raise your hand. If you've been on the board or on the board, raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. So I'd like to give you a couple of comments, and then I'm going to close this in prayer and turn it back over to Perry. So transformation is the word I heard about the legacy that Rick and Julie are leaving. Taking those that in our society are marginalized or challenged, have had bumps in the road. And not every person that we have reached physically through the mission of Wheeler, through mission in Evansville. Thank you for cleaning up Evansville after Rick left. That's good. We really appreciate that. Good job. But not every baseball, the greatest baseball batter, doesn't hit every pitch, right? But God has used Wheeler to touch the physical part, but then using that to touch the spiritual and to transform people's lives. And we would not be sitting in this building or in this place without Rick and Julie. I am confident of that. When I came on as the chairman of the board, it was eventually kind of a process we were talking about on what's the succession plan for Rick. And I want to tell you that when we started the process, I formed as the board chair a search team of people on the board. And I had about 6 or 7 of us on that team. Andy Wiesman, I don't know where he is. There he is. He was a part of that. We hired a search firm, paid a lot of money to a search firm. They went out and found 700 candidates. Now, that's too many. You got to narrow that down. They came down to 300. They asked us more questions on what we were looking for. They narrowed it to 100. Worked with a search committee, and then we narrowed it to 100, and then 50, and then 20. And at 20, we started to look at different resumes. And at 12, we actually started to interview. And we got it down to 3. And Perry was one of the 3. The whole time, I never heard a word out of Rick. When we finally got down after our second interview for Perry, and that search committee was convinced that Perry was the guy that needed to take this over, I called Rick and I said, before this gets out, I want to let you know that we're going to offer this job to Perry. And I'm telling you this, he looks at me and he says, I knew that from the beginning. I'm like, holy smokes. The hundreds of hours that we put into this and the big money on the search firm, you could have saved us a little time. But the wisdom of Rick Alvis, even in his process of leaving, was so evident. The wisdom of what he did for 33 years and how he led, how he kept us focused on the gospel. The Lord was the primary effort of Wheeler and has never left. And the $6 million that we've raised in his name is going to make sure that we stay on that track. So God bless you guys. Thank you for what you did. Let me close in a word of prayer. Father God, what a privilege it is to be in this room. What a privilege it is to look back at 33, 34 years. How you brought Rick and Julie and their family to Indianapolis. How you raised the children and now these grandchildren. How your hand has wrapped around the Alvis family and blessed them and encouraged them through hard and through wonderful times. So now as we drive down this road and we see that name on the building and it says Julie Alvis, we will remember for a long time of the impact that Rick and Julie had on this ministry. In your holy and precious name, amen. Harry.
So I've got about 30 seconds. Since once you give Rick a microphone, you can really never take it away from him. So we love you, Rick. But we just really just want to reiterate and thank you sincerely for coming today. But our heartfelt thanks and gratitude is not only to the Alvis family, but also to Rick and Julie. So none of this would be possible without the work and dedication that you've done and stewarded and nurtured over the last 33 plus years. So my job now is to wrap it up and make sure that we end on time, as well as just direct everybody to the wonderful treats and desserts and the things that we have here to commemorate this auspicious occasion. But again, we just wanted to say how important it is for legacy. Legacy is important. Legacy is not only important for the past generations, but also it sets the stake for future generations, like these children right here, like the hundreds of children who come through our door every night. And tonight, it'll be a light night for us. We will probably only have, through our doors, throughout the Wheeler system, we will probably only have about 600 or 700 folks tonight. And that's a light night for us. So just want you to, as you go home to your go out to your air-conditioned cars in your homes, just know that those are folks who are less fortunate than us, that they're seeking help, hope, and healing. And because of the legacy of Rick and Julie and all of the men and women that have come before me and worked alongside Rick and Julie and the thousands, literally thousands of volunteers we have every year, we will have a place for them tonight, and they can rest their heads easily and have a warm bed and a nice meal, thanks to you. Anyway, so we're going to conclude, and we're just going to move over here and have some desserts, and that concludes our programs. So again, folks, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it.